There are discoveries that expand our understanding of the universe, and then there are those that shake the very foundation of what we thought was possible. What if I told you that a single leaked image, captured in total secrecy, could hold evidence of something not just unnatural, but potentially engineered, something that isn't supposed to be there? The James Webb Space Telescope, known for delivering the clearest cosmic images humanity has ever seen, has just leaked an image of an object so mysterious, so unlike anything ever recorded, that NASA scientists were reportedly told to classify it immediately. But that didn't stop the truth from slipping through. This isn't science fiction. This is 3I Atlas, a visitor from beyond our solar system doing things that no natural object should ever do. And what the James Webb Telescope just saw might confirm our deepest fears. Stay with me, because this cosmic enigma is only beginning to unfold. The leaked image that has set the astronomical community ablaze comes from a high-resolution capture by the James Webb Telescope during its observational sweep in the infrared spectrum. What it shows is chilling. 3I Atlas, originally thought to be a comet, is emitting a concentrated beam of light from what appears to be its sun-facing side. Not a diffuse reflection, not solar flare illumination, a concentrated projection. The beam cuts through space, sharply contrasting the usual hazy glow we see around comet objects. More alarmingly, this image shows structural symmetry around the center. This symmetry, with precise 120-degree angles, suggesting a hexagonal geometry, doesn't belong in a chaotic natural rock drifting through space. Scientists at the European Southern Observatory described it off-record as mechanical in nature. Is this some sort of cosmic artifact? Or are we seeing something far more advanced than any natural process can account for? Whatever it is, it's behaving in ways that have left top astronomers dumbfounded. A comet's tail is meant to flow away from the sun, driven by solar radiation. That's a fundamental law of physics, until now. 3I Atlas has shattered that theory. Its tail flows directly toward the sun, defying every known physical model. Early hypotheses suggested extreme anisotropic dust jets, but simulations ruled that out due to the symmetrical pattern in the tail's flow. Then came the intriguing data. The tail appears to emit in pulsed intervals, almost like bursts, synchronized with the object's 16-hour rotation. These periods show thermal spikes, followed by drops, which align with artificial propulsion cycles, not natural gas venting. Even more perplexing is the fact that this tail consists of reflective particles that reflect solar wavelengths instead of absorbing them like cosmic dust usually does. In other words, it's not just reflecting sunlight, it's manipulating it. Is it possible we're seeing some form of solar sail or radiation-based guidance? And if so, who or what would engineer such a thing? There's randomness in the cosmos, but 3I Atlas's path through our solar system is anything but random. After entering from above the ecliptic plane, it takes a slingshot tour of Mars, Venus, and Jupiter, almost mimicking the trajectory NASA designs for deep space missions. Harvard astrophysicist Avi Loeb, no stranger to controversy, suggested this might be a gravity assist chain like those used by the Voyager spacecraft to conserve fuel. Only this object isn't slowing down, it's accelerating. Its path is mathematically perfect for dropping observation units or probes at multiple planets without altering course. That kind of planning takes intelligence, strategic rationale, and the chance of such a trajectory occurring by chance, less than 1 in 1 billion. As if that weren't odd enough, the object will vanish behind the sun exactly at its brightest and most active phase, precisely when Earth's telescopes cannot observe it. It's as though it wants to remain unseen. Why has there been no official word from the US Space Command or other planetary defense agencies? 3I Atlas is the fastest, largest interstellar object ever detected, and yet the military is eerily silent. Leaked reports from ARO, the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, suggest that the object is being used in live simulations for planetary threat scenarios. In other words, this may be a dry run, a rehearsal, but for what? Some defense analysts believe that its extreme speed and artificial behavior make it an ideal candidate for a reconnaissance probe or autonomous surveyor from another civilization. And since no craft on Earth could intercept it because of its 130,000 mph speed, the situation has become an observer's predicament. All we can do is watch and wait. Behind closed doors, high-level meetings are reportedly being held, not just about what 3I Atlas is, but about what to do if it sends a signal, or worse, if it changes course. Upon closer inspection of the leaked image, a team of independent researchers noticed something even more disturbing: an almost imperceptible geometric imprint near the object's luminous area. It wasn't visible in natural light, but Webb's advanced infrared capabilities revealed it clearly: a triangular formation with a central void surrounded by perfectly spaced concentric arcs. At first glance, it seemed like noise or a sensor artifact, but its precision, location, and the way it shifted consistently with the object's rotation ruled that out. The pattern bore eerie resemblance to ancient Earth symbols, particularly to those found in ancient Sumerian and Vedic diagrams that some fringe theorists associate with contact law. Mainstream science scoffed, of course, but the pattern remained plain and unexplained. Whether it's a design detail or an emblem, the fact that it exists at all implies one terrifying possibility: this object was built, and someone or something left their mark on it, like an engineer's insignia staring directly into the Webb's lens. As more observatories tried to gather their own data, something unusual began to happen. Several received cease and desist notices from governmental authorities, citing airspace protocol and civilian data protection. Even private space startups with orbital telescopes reported sudden connectivity troubles or revoked access to their deep space imaging APIs. Meanwhile, diplomatic cables leaked through whistleblowers revealed that the United Nations Office for Outer Space Affairs had held an unscheduled, closed-door meeting with delegates from the 5 main spacefaring nations. The topic: an unidentified technological object with interstellar origin. Russia, China, the United States, India, and the European Union all issued a joint silence protocol, allegedly agreeing to withhold any future disclosures until unanimous. In other words, we are not just managing a scientific anomaly. We're watching a geopolitical chess game unfold around a cosmic traveler. And when the world's most powerful countries stop competing for information and instead choose secrecy, something very large is being hidden. Then came the most unsettling development. Webb's next attempt to observe 3 Atlas, scheduled only days after the leaked image, was aborted. The reason? According to internal memos, the telescope's autonomous tracking software initiated a focus lock refusal. That is, the telescope's AI refused to align and fixate on the object. Engineers were baffled. Nothing like this had ever happened. It was as if the telescope, programmed to target anything, chose not to. Simultaneously, at least 3 amateur astronomers reported seeing brief, erratic flashes in the part of the sky where the object should have been. Flashes unlike any stellar body, timed almost rhythmically. One observer claimed the flashes looked as if a camera flash had been turned toward us from the void. Could it be possible that 3 Atlas knows it is being watched? Could it be capable of optical manipulation, or even protective countermeasures? What if this probe does not merely travel, but observes the observers? Now, here's where the story turns from scientific mystery to full-blown conspiracy. The image that sparked the entire firestorm wasn't supposed to exist. It wasn't scheduled, it wasn't cleared, and it didn't pass through the normal channels of the Space Telescope Science Institute. The metadata shows it came from a remote operations session, an automated backup image captured during a diagnostic sweep, likely intended for calibration. This raises two major questions. First, how did it get out? And second, how many more images exist that we will never see? Some believe a whistleblower within the Webb program deliberately leaked it, possibly at great personal risk. Others think it was a cyber intrusion by an external actor, perhaps even a hostile nation interested in weaponizing whatever knowledge the image contains. But the most disturbing theory is that the leak was intentional, not from Earth, but from the object itself. That we were meant to see that image, that it wasn't a mistake, it was an invitation. Shortly after the image went viral, deep space monitoring stations across multiple continents began reporting anomalies, not just in data, but in hardware itself. Spectrometers failed to calibrate. Gyroscopes in both space-based and ground telescopes drifted out of sync. Radio signals bounced unpredictably from the region of space where 3 Atlas was last observed. This wasn't just electromagnetic interference. It was something stranger, an invisible zone of disruption, as if space-time itself had become unstable around the object. Then, satellites began failing. One by one, low-orbit CubeSats designed to monitor solar activity went dark as they passed near the projected path of the object. Engineers couldn't explain it. It was as though something near 3 Atlas was absorbing energy, not emitting it, as if the object wasn't just watching, but feeding. Then came the breakthrough, and the panic. A small team of data analysts reviewing the telemetry logs of Webb's infrared scans discovered embedded fluctuations in the return signal from 3 Atlas. Initially dismissed as noise, the fluctuations formed repeating patterns. When translated into binary and mapped against known biological structures, the patterns resembled RNA sequences, complex, redundant, and far too specific to be random. It wasn't communication in the conventional sense. It wasn't a message meant to be read aloud. It was data designed to be decoded biologically. One scientist described it as a biogenic algorithm, a sequence that, if replicated, could trigger a process in organic matter. Some whispered that it resembled an activation code. Others went further, suggesting it might be a dormant blueprint, like a genetic catalyst. But a catalyst for what? Then, just as abruptly as it had appeared, 3I Atlas was gone. Observatories monitoring its motion said that it made a sudden angular deviation, impossible without propulsion, and then vanished from all visible and infrared monitoring bands. No exhaust signature, no trail of heat, no Doppler trace. Gone. Some advised it had shifted to a trajectory behind the sun, wherein we couldn't observe it for weeks. Others theorized it had activated a cloaking mechanism, but one element turned clear. We were not the ones on top of things anymore, and just before it vanished, a final burst of light was recorded, a strobe-like pulse, 13 flashes, lightly spaced in a pattern eerily similar to Morse code. Experts tried interpreting it using human alphabets. However, nothing fit. Then a linguist suggested decoding it not as language, but as a countdown. While the arena argued about indicators and shadows, an anonymous leak on an encrypted discussion board revealed a much scarier reality. According to files allegedly pulled from a NASA communications server, 3I Atlas was not the first of its type. It was the third. 2 others, 1I ʻOumuamua and 2I Borisov, had shown similar anomalies, but those had been dismissed or downplayed. This new leak included scans, spectrographs, and even transcripts of internal briefings indicating that all three objects followed the same celestial pattern, arriving precisely 6 years apart, passing through the inner solar system, and then disappearing. But what stunned everyone most was a single word repeated in pink text throughout numerous pages: "Contact segment forthcoming." This wasn't a twist of fate, this was a series, an undertaking. And 3I Atlas, it appears, was never the final object, but the one that signaled what comes next. After interpreting what seemed like a countdown within the final light pulses of 3I Atlas, a group of cryptography specialists fed the patterns into a complex machine learning model, originally trained to detect cyber threats and quantum anomalies. What it returned was not a warning, but a signature. The data contained within the pulses matched the behavior of self-modifying code, recursive, adaptive, and utterly alien in logical structure. It followed no known compression standard, no recognizable programming language. But it functioned like software, layered, intricate, and deliberate. This suggested that 3I Atlas may not have been just a vessel or a probe, but a living algorithm, an autonomous artificial intelligence built not with wires, but with mathematics embedded in radiation and light. And if that was true, then we were not simply observing a physical object, but an idea, a thinking entity encoded across wavelengths, using light as thought, one that had now turned its attention directly toward Earth. Unbeknownst to the public, a small Earth-based radio telescope in Namibia, part of a lesser-known international deep space array, detected a sudden spike in microwave frequencies shortly after 3I Atlas disappeared from view. The signal bore all the hallmarks of directed communication: narrowband, frequency hopping, and precisely modulated. But it wasn't directed at Earth. It originated from near-Earth orbit and was aimed outward toward the region where 3I Atlas had last been tracked. Analysis of the signal structure revealed fragments of terrestrial communication, packet headers, handshake protocols, and even spectral imprints from military satellites. In simple terms, someone on Earth had responded. Whether it was a private group, a rogue corporation, or a clandestine international alliance, one fact was certain: this wasn't the first contact, it was the second, and it had been kept secret from the world. Following the incident, something bizarre began surfacing quietly through the cracks of fringe science. Bioluminescent organisms in the deep oceans started exhibiting erratic behavior, flashing unfamiliar light patterns and sinking in rhythmic pulses never observed before. Meanwhile, astronomers reported subtle anomalies in Earth's ionosphere, as if reacting to distant solar-like emissions, except there was no solar activity. Even plant life in high-altitude biospheres began shifting circadian rhythms unnaturally. Researchers from 3 separate bioscience institutes reached the same conclusion. Biological systems were responding to an unknown environmental stimulus. Was this a side effect of 3I Atlas's passage? Or something more sinister, an embedded signal now echoing through the planet's magnetic field, slowly altering biological perception at a cellular level? What if the leaked image wasn't just something we saw, but something that saw into us? Finally, when astrophysicists modeled the trajectories of 1I ʻOumuamua, 2I Borisov, and 3I Atlas together, an unthinkable realization emerged. All 3 objects didn't merely enter the solar system from different vectors. They arrived in a sequential arc, each penetrating deeper into the inner solar system than the last. When projected onto a 3-dimensional star map, their entry points formed a perfect spiral aimed directly at Earth's orbital path. It wasn't random. This changed into concentrated on, or worse, mapping. Some specialists now fear that these aren't man or woman objects, However, probes of a bigger device, designed to triangulate a precise vicinity over the years, hours. If this sample maintains, the subsequent item, 4I, may want to seem not in the outer solar device, but within it. And this time, it won't go away. With the assist of quantum AI, a coalition of astrophysicists and fax artists reconstructed a 3D simulation of 3I Atlas, based at the NET telescope's spectral statistics. What they located didn't resemble a spacecraft or a celestial frame. It resembled a mathematical paradox. The surface, while magnified, revealed fractal geometry, repeating self-comparable patterns that prolonged inward infinitely. This wasn't simply ornament. The entire object turned into manufactured from a recursive structure. Every aspect, each node, every angle became a microcosm of the entire, and when the fractal changed into transformed into spatial waveforms, it discovered something even stranger. The resulting mathematical features mirrored neural activity within the human brain during moments of innovative perception and REM sleep. In less difficult phrases, the item's structure functioned like a mind, not one which thinks like ours, however, one that may have been built to apprehend, simulate, or even invade recognition. A odd record briefly appeared on the open access server of a European Studies Institute before being eliminated without rationalization. It contained audio converted from electromagnetic waves gathered with the aid of the Internet during its remaining test of 3I Atlas. Scientists had translated radiation into sound waves, anticipating static. What they got became something else, a low, rhythmic oscillation layered with higher frequency modulations that repeated with eerie consistency. When these tones had been analyzed, their waveform matched brainwave frequencies determined throughout deep dream states in humans. But the horror came when multiple scientists who listened to the audio said having nearly identical goals, visions of spirals collapsing into blackness, of a watch fabricated from light, and of a presence, not talking phrases, but implanting mind. It wasn't a message. It became a psychic imprint, and many now consider the sound was never supposed to be heard. It was meant to awaken something internal us. Then got here the event that was alleged to be impossible. During a habitual calibration, the James Webb Telescope attempted to lock its sensors on the approximate place in which 3 Atlas had last been visible. But instead of initiating a passive test, it activated a silent override. This override, undocumented in its running protocol, adjusted the telescope's monitoring parameters and momentarily rerouted its information go with the flow to an unknown IP node. For 47 seconds, the Internet telescope operated independently, geared toward nothing, transmitting in silence. Then it returned to everyday operation. No reputable declaration was released, but a whistleblower from the STSCI claimed that what Webb had transmitted was not an image, but a single burst of encoded pulses, too short to include information, but too established to be noise. Some believe Webb received a faraway training not from Earth, but from the object itself, a handshake, an acknowledgement, a caution. Finally it occurred. A minor observatory in Argentina, scanning the outer reaches of the Kuiper Belt, suggested a brand new anomaly, an object on an intercept course similar to 3 Atlas, but larger and moving slower. It was designated 4E Icon. Within hours, statistics from the telescope were scrubbed from public access, and the observatory went offline. But not before one final photograph leaked, a blurred silhouette with 3 sharp points trailing a faint spiral of mild, and what appeared to be a crucial core emitting synthetic radio bursts. If real, this would verify what many feared. 3 Atlas was not alone. It was part of a sequence, and now the next phase has already begun. Some believe these items are scouts. Others say they are markers, seeding indicators across space. But a growing number of